You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
And welcome to the Snob OS Show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode. Again, thank you for your continued support of our lovely little show here. Speaking of the show, on this week's show, we're going to talk about Apple getting to the money, hitting a $5 trillion with a T market cap. Also, Apple launched Apple Upgrade, which is basically Klarna for Apple products. Also, it seems as if Apple might be pumping the brakes on the launch of their smart glasses that we're all looking forward to. Over in second string, it seems like the AI cool kids got left out at the lunchroom table. And rounding it out, dress codes seem to be back for a top HBCU here in the United States. And rounding it out, we're going to get into our tech tip of the week. Again, you can listen or watch our show. You can also rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and on YouTube. You can also head on over to patreon.com/snobwestcast to find out how you can become a Patreon supporter and get to watch the show live and get some exclusive content. With that, we're going to jump into this week's show. We're going to kick it off with the lowdown, where we talk all things Apple. Again, as I mentioned, heading into Tim Cook's final earnings call, which will actually be held on tomorrow. If you're listening to the show live, if you're listening to the recorded show, this will have happened yesterday. So briefly, Apple crossed the $5 trillion market cap on this past Tuesday, the 28th of July, becoming only the second company in history to touch that number after NVIDIA. And it got there in about less than 9 months after crossing another milestone, the $4 trillion mark. So the shares hit about just over $340 before it, pulled back. But I have to say, this is a huge number and a huge leap. And it seems like Tim Cook is going out on a high note with this latest history-making event.
Yep. And it looks like they got the numbers to show for it. I think, again, I don't know how financial books work or anything like that, but they say the expenditures is only $4.3 billion, but they are making $4 trillion in market share. That is either some good finance budgeting or, books are getting cooked, right? We want to make sure we hope that Apple is their financial stewardship is in order to where they are making more than they spend. But I don't know how true this is, and I don't even know if I'm financially educated enough to explain. But I read or heard something the other day talking about how companies can pretty much hide expenses by somehow creating like I said, I'm not even financial enough to
or they
break it down.
They can shift, I think, certain assets at a certain time and then shift them back when I guess they're doing.
Maybe.
I don't know. I know. I mean, it's the financial industry. We know that they can do some switcheroos to kind of make it look good. But even in this case, that's a lot of switcherooing around, because if they hit $5 trillion, 4.3 billion, is that 10%? I don't know if I can do math that high. That's is that 10% of what their market cap is for their expenditures?
Maybe. I'm just saying that is a big gap for them to be doing that well. Again, we know Apple has always been we're going to spend money where need be. And, make sure we deliver a good product, period, which is why they don't do a lot of marketing, which is why they do a lot of advertising. Maybe that goes into it. Apple, comparatively speaking, compared to some other companies, they do hardly any marketing. They may do some, they just got on TikTok, last year, a year or two ago or something like that. They do commercials, but it ain't really like all in your face all over social media. So maybe that's where the difference
brand is
is
strong. They're saving a lot of money on marketing.
Right.
I guess probably the money that they are spending are like the videos and stuff that they do when they have was it like the Apple events and stuff.
Maybe it's just it is refreshing and also curious as to why they're doing so well with their books, right? Knowing this is a company in this world, in the United States specifically, companies are so hungry for profits over everything that it ain't outside of the realm of possibilities that a company is finagling them numbers, right? And we've got stories, Enron, you got all these stories to show that a company will get away with what they can get away with for as long as possible until, they have to go bankrupt or have to get bought out or whatever the case may be. Again, I'm not pushing bad juju on Apple, but congrats to them. I just hope that you are doing it the right way.
One thing they can't finagle is the market cap that they have and the fact that their shares are hitting, these high numbers. So, like I said, they have Tim Cook riding out on a high when it comes to this. So it's one of those things where it's like, hey, he's handing over the kingdom in a really, really good shape. So hope that the new guy can come in and keep that going, at least with the hope that they could, expand it and make even more money. But it'd be interesting to see tomorrow what this earning calls look like. If it's strictly continued business as usual, or if it's going to get a little sentimental, or they're going to add a little zhuzh to it, since this looks like this is going to be the last thing that Tim Cook might do as CEO of Apple. All right, next up, Apple launched a new service called Apple Upgrade on Tuesday as well. Tuesday was a busy day in Apple land. It's a brand new leasing program replacing the iPhone upgrade program. Which basically stopped accepting new signups. So basically, if you know what Klarna is, if you know what Afterpay is, this is essentially what this Apple upgrade is. iPhones are going to start at about $17.99 a month. Apple Watch is going to start at about $12 a month, with a 12 and 24 month term for iPhone and Apple Watch, and a 24 to 36 month term for Mac and iPad. So speaking of Klarna is a partner with this Apple upgrade product. So it's kind of like your buy now, pay later, thing. We all know what the Klarna is. So Apple notably confirmed that it will not limit device functionality if a customer misses payments or defaults. So I think it's one of these things where it sits to me more in the vein of, when Apple Card came out, people got Apple Card. You can buy your devices on your Apple Card. If you do the payment plan, it basically counts against your credit limit and they take the money out monthly. And that's just how it is. Well, everybody can't, or maybe don't want to get a credit card to pay for stuff like this. So this is kind of like a workaround for people to be able to buy new Apple devices and not have to pay it all up front.
Well, so I thought Apple always did this, was just like an installment plan. I remember them doing this either before or in concert with, if you had an Apple Card. If you had an Apple Card, you can do it, no interest, no yada, yada, yada. I thought Apple had some sort of installment plan that didn't require you to have an Apple Card. If
It
that's the
did.
case, I'm assuming that they just are not doing it themselves. Apple not doing it themselves anymore, and are bringing on Klarna to let them do it. Right. So my
Right.
assumption is nothing's changed outside of just who's holding the money. It used to be Apple. Now it's Klarna. Now I'm trying to find out if there's a difference, because we assume that with Affirm, with Klarna, with Afterpay, there's a catch somewhere, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that same catch, if I was just using regular Klarna to just buy something regular versus buying an Apple product using this Klarna Apple plan, is the catch different? Is the catch the same? What is the difference between just regular Klarna and then Apple's version of Klarna, which is being ran by Klarna?
Right. So I think there was a program, it mentioned it, it was called the iPhone upgrade program, but I think it was just for iPhone.
Okay.
And now with this Apple upgrade, it covers phones, watches, iPads, and laptops. So it's
Okay.
not just a phone anymore that you can get on like this installment plan. And I think I would assume, since Klarna is the partner, that, you know, it has a limit on how much you can get at one time. So you can't like say, you know what, I'm gonna load up. I'm gonna get an iPhone, I'm gonna get me a new Apple Watch, I'm gonna get me a new iPad, I'm gonna get me a new MacBook. I don't think, don't quote me because I don't know how this, they didn't give a whole lot of detail on how this is actually going to work. And if it's still kind of like going in the same Klarna type pipeline of how they operate. But I'm assuming that it's going to be like, you have like a certain bandwidth of how many things you can kind of have at one time. I think that's how Klarna works. I'm not sure. I've never used, I don't know how it works, but I just know that there are like, you just can't run it up and have like 5 or 6 different things that you're paying like these monthly installments on. I think it's like like weighted, like you can only have like say 2 or 3 or.
Well, they
know.
say they do a soft credit check, which doesn't affect your credit score. They don't mention anything about interest. They don't mention anything about a fee. So I'm assuming it's free. I guess the only difference is, like you mentioned, that they got to limit people somehow, and maybe this soft credit pool is the mechanism at which they limit how much or what you can get at one time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I guess, you know, the whole buy now, pay later, people are using it literally for everything. People are using it for groceries. They're using it for all types of things. So I guess it only makes sense that it goes into the tech space, because I'm wondering if you couldn't buy Apple products on Klarna or Afterpay or Affirm before or not. I would assume you could. I don't know.
I would assume you could, but maybe the difference is there's a little bit more direction from Apple if you go via Klarna. I mean, you probably won't even, my assumption is if you sign up for this program, you won't even know Klarna's behind it unless they like plaster the name across your invoice or billing
Right.
statements or whatever you're going to get, you know, which seems like what something Apple would do. And, you know, we don't know. I mean, you know, but you really don't see that the Apple card is, you know, fronted by Goldman Sachs
Right.
or whomever else is going to be, you know, going forward. Right. I mean, we know because in the little bitty in the corner of the card, I think it has Goldman Sachs, but like in the Apple card wallet app anywhere, it doesn't say, you know, Goldman Sachs account or Goldman Sachs bank account, or you get your statement. It's not Goldman Sachs. I mean, it's somewhere in
It's
there.
somewhere, but it's like tiny.
Yeah. But I'm
Yeah.
assuming this is going to be the same with Klarna, which I'm not sure what the advantage is outside of now Klarna can say we are the partner for Apple Watches and phones and tablets and Macs.
Yeah. So the other thing that I'm a little interested in, it's like it says that if you miss a payment or default, there's no device limitation functionality.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out what's the incentive to
Well, I mean, they'll
to
send you
pay.
the collections, and they'll probably figure out a way to. So you got to ask yourself, right? Is shutting off the phone, if you default, is that limiting the features? If opposed to like printers, right? I was just watching an Instagram today, and the lady was venting because she has this HP printer. I'm assuming it ain't like your $60 printer you go get at Office Depot or Best Buy or Target or something, or Walmart. This is like a $200, $300, $400 printer, and she was complaining that in order for her to continue to print, she had to connect the printer to Wi-Fi, take it off of her Ethernet, because she had it connected to her computer via Ethernet, and that's how she used to connect the print stuff from the Ethernet cable. HP was like, nah, you got to connect the printer to the Wi-Fi or you won't be able to print anymore. So she connects it to the Wi-Fi. She gets a message from HP that says, you're not using the official HP toner. We are going to limit your functionality until you buy HP branded toner, right? Because according to her, the HP branded toner was like a couple $100, right? Versus the generic is like $40 or $50 off of Amazon. So my whole point around this was, if she didn't do what HP told her to do, they were going to limit her functionality, i.e. not allow her to print. Now, she can keep the printer all she want, but she
can't use it.
Right. So I'm wondering what Apple made that statement, right, that says we're not going to limit functionality. What I read that was, well, you know, if you default or miss a payment, we ain't going to shut off the Wi-Fi, or we ain't going to shut off the AirPlay. We ain't going to shut off AirDrop. You know, we're not going to shut off your ability to connect mail accounts to it. But they may just inactivate the whole phone and mark it as lost, which, I mean, technically that limits functionality, but like, it ain't no different than a kill switch on a car. You ain't making no payments. They can kill switch it and say, we ain't limit the functionality. We just turn the whole thing off.
Maybe that's their legalese way around that. Interesting.
Apple lock your joint up and then you won't be able to do nothing. They didn't limit the functionality. They just limited your ability to use the thing, period.
Use it. It'll be interesting to see how many people use this. And again, they're rolling this out just before the new products come out, in 2 months. So
everybody's in your pocket. Everybody's trying to figure out how to get in and stay in your pockets. Ain't no better way to do that than having you subscribe to stuff. So it sounds like people are subscribing to phone or leasing phones the same way they lease cars, right? When you lease a car, you don't own it unless you fork over all the money to give it up
at the end.
Right, at the end, right? Most people, which is, again, side tangent, but not really, some people get cars every 3 to 5 years. That's crazy to me, but people do it. So
they do it.
Give them the vehicle to do it, I suppose. Same thing with phones. I used to be a phone every year. One, because I could afford it, you know, and two, I'm a techie, right? But even now, I'm kind of like, all right, man, hold up.
This ain't too different from the last one I got.
Right.
Let
Hold
me
up.
see something
Right.
new.
Hold up. Right. So, you know, I've switched to, you know, every other year, if not every 2 years. So we'll be seeing how this iPhone 18 looks. If it's regular, schmegular and nothing, shoot, I may just hold on to the 16 Pro Max another year. Now, again, don't quote me on that. You know, I have every intention on buying a new one, but y'all got to show me something. Y'all
some razzle dazzle, some something. Not just the same thing. I can just do the OS upgrade and be basically the same. You got to give me something else.
Right. But more so than that, it's just like, y'all don't need to be in my pockets every year, period. Or every other year, you know. And I hope that people are not like, ooh, this is an opportunity for me to get a phone, you know, every year, to where you don't even own. And it'll get to, if everybody does it, this is a barometer. If everybody does it and 40, 50, 60% of Apple users are using some sort of installment plan, some sort of Klarna, some sort of something, eventually they will move away from, you just can't buy this. You got to lease it.
Now
you got to subscribe to a MacBook. Can you imagine subscribing to a MacBook?
Imagine? Oh my God.
It's coming. It's coming. So be careful.
That is insane. It's like, I'm never going to update. I'm never going to update my OS. I'm going to keep whatever it is I got going because y'all are crazy. It's wild to see. It's kind of dystopian the way that it's, it all goes back to how we used to have digital media. Now everything's in the cloud, everything's streaming. You don't get physical media anymore. It's an effort. It's special to get physical media.
You got to go around the world just to own music nowadays.
Yeah. It's insane. It's nuts. All right. The last thing in the lowdown, we're going to talk a little bit Apple smart glasses. So it's being reported that Apple is slowing down their smart glasses program because of privacy concerns. And there's also reports that suggest that it's not just a privacy issue, but it's more a hardware issue and capabilities with AI. And it's one of those things where we've talked about it before with what's going on with the Meta glasses, how people were trying to tweak them to turn off the notifications so people that know you're recording. And I think it's just being with everything that's going on with AI in general, people are a bit more vigilant and they're asking questions and they're having higher expectations. And I think Apple is maybe taking that into account in addition to, some of the issues that they may be having with their hardware and Siri AI. But I wonder, do you think this is a smart approach, of maybe taking a step back, whereas some companies like OpenAI and Meta, they're just plowing forward and it's like, we'll figure it out after we get it released?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I want to believe that Apple is slowing down as a result of all the negative feedback from the Meta AI glasses and the potential privacy, data security issues. Not to say Apple was concerned about data security, but more privacy, right? Mm-hmm. People are speaking out and speaking up against the ability for people to easily record you using these smart glasses and all the privacy concerns that has stirred up with Meta. So I want to believe that Apple's like, all right, before we roll something out in the midst of all this negative press that Meta's jacking up, right? We don't want to roll out in the middle of all that, but at the same, at the same time, if just not to launch in this time frame, right? Let's let it cool down a little bit, then we'll launch. I want to believe they are listening to the concerns of people, but more, I believe they're probably like, nah, man, let's just wait until the news die down.
It's really interesting because, like I said, people are very much aware now of what's going on around them and how, companies keep trying to piecemeal this together. And people are kind of just out there doing their own thing because there isn't like a standardization. There aren't any, legal guardrails around this. And it's one of those things where it's like, do you choose to be left behind, so to speak, while other people are plowing forward? Or is it one of those things where it's like, we already got enough lawsuits, enough people are already coming, trying to take money from us. Let's not add to it. So it's just really interesting to see how they approach this and if it really is privacy concerns that's, giving them a pause.
In my opinion, the glasses don't need a camera to be smart. With the Meta AI glasses, my assumption is the reason why they call them smart glasses is because it has the Meta AI built into the glasses. Mm-hmm. So, you don't need headphones. The stem is close enough to your ear to where you can listen to responses or use the microphone built in, talk to the glasses. The glasses give you responses. You can listen to music, podcasts, audiobooks, whatever you want to do. The camera feature seems like since the glasses are on your eyes, that's a perfect place to put cameras because they're already pointing in the direction that you're looking. So you don't have to hold a phone up and turn the phone around. You just turn your head, and that's whatever you looking at is what you're recording. I think that's the only functionality for the glasses, but I don't think the camera is what makes them smart glasses all the way around the world. To say Apple could probably get away with just having sensors that detect what's in front of you,
movement and motion.
You know, you use your hands to do the little hand gestures. It recognizes that, but it don't necessarily need cameras. So maybe Apple says, we take the camera off, put some sensors on the front, make sure you can talk to Siri, make sure you can do all the things, make sure it has good battery life, leave the cameras off, then roll it out and not have to be so worried about people freaking out, right? And they still be smart glasses because you're connecting to Siri AI, you're connecting to Apple Intelligence, you're connecting to your messages, you read your emails, read the news or whatever the case may be. Without the cameras, you ain't got to worry about all the privacy stuff. That's what I'm hoping that they're backing up to say, well, we taking the camera off because there's too much.
And that's actually the smart, I think, way to approach it. I think what the issue is because there are other glasses out there who have done the camera thing. People automatically associate cameras and recording with smart glasses, even though, like you said, the cameras and the recordings aren't the actual smart piece of the smart glasses. So, you know, they'll probably have to do, you know, spend some of that PR budget to try and kind of flip the narrative on its ear about what it actually means to be smart glasses.
And they've got time because according to this story, they say they want to announce it. They plan on announcing something WWDC 2027, but they're pushing it back. So they even got time to decide, which again, the industry is waiting on what Apple's going to do as far as smart consumer glasses anyway. So they got time because we're going to wait.
Yeah. And I want cameras when I can actually have, like I've said 1,000 times before, like the overlays, like from Minority Report, where it overlays, you know, it gives you these visual cues to be able to navigate and move around and do things, not just record people or
And
take pictures.
And we're a way away from that, which is why everybody's jumping all on AI because that's easier because it's software. Hardware, a little bit harder than software, in my opinion.
For sure. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the lowdown. Let's head on into Second String where we talk all other tech. So it seems as if there are some pretty big AI names being left out in this new AI security alliance. So days after OpenAI's own AI model basically broke out of its security testing and it hacked Hugging Face systems, NVIDIA launched the Open Secure AI Alliance on July 27th with over 30 companies, including Microsoft, IBM, SpaceX, Adobe, Cloudflare, CrowdStrike, the Linux Foundation, all big names in the AI space. But this alliance is supposed to build shared tools for defending against AI-driven attacks. Now, the three biggest AI model labs, which is OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic, they did not participate in this particular alliance. So it leads, several conclusions can be drawn from this. OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic think they're too big. They have their own systems under control. These other people didn't want them included because they are in the hot seat for a lot of issues when it comes to their models and it breaking out of what they're supposed to do and causing other issues or the way that they operate. So it's one of those things where, is it smart or is it prudent for all of the big names to come together to try and figure out a centralized type of environment where they can all share tools to kind of help each other out? Because if OpenAI's model can hop over and hack another company, it seems like it's just only a matter of time before it does it to somebody else. So it's just like, it really just kind of puts the question out there. How are all these companies who are doing a lot of the same things, how do they not only protect themselves, but how does this protect the populace at large? Because if it's doing these kind of things in more contained environments, what happens when it really gets loose and gets out of control?
The simple answer, in my opinion, is normally the best one. OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google, according to your footnote, is they are closed model AI labs. This new foundation, or whatever the name of it was, its job is to build and share free, open tools that help defend against AI attacks. OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, closed model AI labs. So simple answer is they ain't participating because they're closed, and they have no interest in making shared free tools. That shared and free sounds like it goes against what Anthropic, Google, and OpenAI want to do, is charge us money by building proprietary, closed off stuff to their consumers. So, I mean, it makes sense, right? Now, your question, should they want to all get together? Sure. But what's in the best interest for the consumers doesn't jive very well with what's in the best interest of the shareholders. So you do the math.
Yeah, that's a very poignant assumption. The only thing that I guess wonder is, in this particular latest attack that I think ran for 9 days on the Hugging Face system, it was a closed source model that kind of jump shipped over into a system that isn't closed off. Hugging Face is one of those people, they provide data sets that a lot of people use when they're building their models, when people build their own models. And it's like they don't have the ability or the time to make up their own data sets. They can go to Hugging Face and pull in different data sets to be able to train their models, test their models out. So to me, the thing is, this closed source model went over to the open source side and reached all kinds of havocs. And apparently, I hadn't heard about this prior to seeing this about this alliance. The original hack that happened between OpenAI and Hugging Face was worse than was first reported. The rogue AI ran loose inside Hugging Face system for 9 days, and the FBI reportedly knew before OpenAI even figured out that it was their model that was responsible. So it's kind of like, it's definitely two sides. Open source, we're going to collaborate, we're going to work together, you're going to contribute, I'm going to contribute, everybody's contributing to this system. And then we kind of got the big money people over here like, this is our thing, this is our stuff, we're not letting it out. But when the two cross, that becomes, I think, the bigger issue. And I know we're in a capitalist society, we've become very high on individualism and not community. But when these types of things happen that affect both, closed type of private entities with public open source entities, it's kind of one of those things where you should really try and participate, because this, I think, is going to happen more. And it's going to become smarter, because these things, again, they train, they learn, they figure out what works. Then if it doesn't work, then they rework it to make it work. That these people need to kind of come together and work this out. But again, they have the option not to, because they are such juggernauts and they are, the face of AI. But
they're big enough to where if problems arise, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Which really is a reactive attitude instead of proactive attitude. But again, when it comes down to money, people are like, you know what? That's fine. Let's kick the can down the road a little bit further.
I mean, and to OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google's credit, they are the top 3 AI models who are probably raking in the most money. You know, all the other ones are, fighting for 4th and 5th and 6th place, right? So you the big dog, you call the shots. That's just how it goes, right? Now, whether that's again, that goes back to my original statement though. Doesn't matter if it's in the best interest of the consumer, which you claim to be, that's the most important piece to the puzzle is we want to make a dope product for our consumers, right? If you really want to do that, then you would join this foundation and figure out how to do this and that and the third and make it all safe for everybody and figure out regulations and figure out guardrails and figure out kill switches and come to a gentleman's agreement that we're not going to hack your stuff. Yes. Yeah. All that would be the benefit of the consumers, right?
Right.
But we know corporations are not out here for the benefit of the consumers.
They are not for the people.
They are not for the people. They are for the money.
Yeah.
So all that other righteous, moral, ethical stuff, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
And when they get there, it's just going to be a mess. But what are we going to do? All right, that's going to wrap up Second String. Let's head on over to For the Culture. So I don't know if you saw this discourse on social media the last couple of days. I went to 2 PWIs, so I try not to have too much input, but I will say I was at the AUC a lot because a lot of my friends there. So all this to say, there is a discourse going on social media right now. Tuskegee University has, they recently announced their new policy as far as what you wear on campus. Now, a dress code policy isn't new for Tuskegee, but it looks like they have upped the ante, and honestly, they're probably now really enforcing it more than they probably did in the past, because typically, from my experience with HBCUs, I know you went to HBCU, Terrance, is that there are certain things you don't do. There are some unwritten rules that everybody just knows. And I think some of those unwritten rules have just kind of gone by the wayside with this new generation. So the new dress code that is causing, a bit of consternation on social media is that Tuskegee is prohibiting students from wearing bedroom slippers, bonnets, do-rags in the classroom and the cafeteria. They're also cracking down on revealing clothing that will be banned in classrooms, dining areas, and at official university events. They're expecting students to, when they attend professional events or business meetings, they must wear business suits and appropriate footwear under the guidelines. Now, like I said, I went to PWIs. People wore pajamas. People rolled out. It was predominantly white, predominantly male. They just kind of showed up. But I know when I was in undergrad, when I was on campus with my friends in HBCUs, everybody was dressed. They were going to class dressed. So to see this kind of shift from that to where we are now, and I can only imagine what some of these kids are, I won't say kids, young adults are showing up to class in. And I know you have an incoming college freshman. Are you having like these kind of conversations, this discourse? Like, how was your experience when you were in school? And, is the hubbub and the uproar really, worth it. People like it's bigger things we should be talking about rather than what somebody wears to class.
So when I was in college at an HBCU, there were specific days on, I think it was maybe Friday around lunchtime, maybe, was when everybody got dressed up. And that was like the fashion show, right? Outside of that, it was just normal clothes. I really didn't pay that much attention to who was, well, I don't think college life was like you have to be, with the exception of, and I'll give Tuskegee credit, if you're going to a business event, like if you're going to a seminar or you're going to, they're bringing in a guest to speak on stuff, yes, get dressed up. And if Tuskegee wants to say the fellas got to wear a jacket with a tie, and they say the girls got to wear, appropriate shoes or whatever, I don't know what, attire for women is when it's a business setting. For a guy, you wear a jacket and or a tie and maybe some slacks, right? I get it for that. I feel like this is personally, I feel like this is a little bit of respectability politics because they specifically call out do-rags and bonnets, which in the black community, typically you wear this at home type deal, but the kids now, as for women specifically, all these protective hairstyles, you want to protect it. You want to protect the protective hairstyle as much as possible. So as much as possible, you wear a bonnet, right? So you may catch a sister wearing a bonnet at the airport because she's trying to keep her hair straight until she gets to the vacation, and then, off comes the bonnet, right? As far as kids now, if we're doing the PWI/HBCU thing, I don't know if PWIs care that much about how their students come to class.
They don't.
Just from a high school standpoint, seeing how these kids go to high school, they're in high school in the fuzzy house slippers. They're
wrapped around in blankets.
They got the weird checkered plaid pajama pants. Now, some of the girls, some kids are scantily clad, but that's just what high schoolers and college age folks do. You got the body, you got the arms, you got the chest, or you got the curves. That's what kids do, man. So we did it when we was in college. We was just the kids, so we didn't notice it. I guess who noticed it? the faculty, our parents, right?
Staff.
Right. So shame on us to turn around and look at the kids now coming to school in pajama pants and house slippers and bonnets, or scantily clad, and be like, shame on y'all. I'm like, we did the exact same thing. Now, it wasn't the same colors. We didn't accentuate the same body parts. Maybe when we was kids, I remember, big butts wasn't a big thing when we was in kids. It was breasts. So the women had on the tube tops. You know what I'm saying? With the maybe
crop
had
tops.
the mid with the crop tops, right? Now butts are a thing. So now you can see legs and maybe a little bottom booty cheek poking out, right? That's just what the kids are doing now, right? Nothing has changed, right? So having said all of that, I believe that Tuskegee probably has some other thing as an HBCU. I'm pretty sure they have some other things they could be focusing on versus putting out this mandate as far as what kids specifically do rags and bonnets, right? It seems like with those two call outs, seems more respectability politics because we're having the debate about when and where bonnets can be worn, So Tuskegee's throwing their hat in the ring and saying, all right, well, we ain't really feeling the bonnets, so take them off, right? But I don't think this is we need kids to focus, and the kids are not, they're not engaged because they're not looking the part, right? That's where the whole respectability politics comes in.
Right.
You come to Tuskegee, you're supposed to look the part. So we want everybody, yada, 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 which ain't got nothing to do with why the kids there. The kids are there to get an education that they pay for. Right. So, and then on top of that, I'm pretty sure if I did a quick search on Tuskegee issues, I'm pretty sure a long laundry list of issues as it relates to finances, as it relates to housing, as it relates to infrastructure, as it relates to maybe some embezzlement,
data centers,
whatever. I'm pretty sure there's a long laundry list that Tuskegee says, you know what? We'll focus on these things. Once we get these things in order, and we are an institution to where the kids can come and don't have to worry about getting purged. They don't worry about losing their money. They can come and be safe. They can come and get an education that leads them to a job. Once we do those things and do them well, then we can double back on this is the type of student we want at our university. Y'all Tuskegee, relax.
And I agree. I think it's a lot of respectability. I think these kids now, especially, I think particularly coming out of the pandemic, athleisure and loungewear became huge, and people are just still flowing that because it's comfortable. A lot of it is stylish,
it's durable.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where, you can wear it in the house, you can wear it out the house. And I just think if you're going to class, if you got an 8 o'clock class, 10 o'clock, hell, if you got a night class, it's one of those things where, you're getting there and you're doing your things. And again, these are 18 to 22 to 23-year-old students. Do you know what the mindset is of 18 to 23-year-old students? They're not thinking about going to class wearing, business casual. They throwing on some sneakers. They throwing on a hoodie. They throwing on some jogging pants. And they're going on about their business and doing their thing. So.
Yep. I just think this is, like you said, it seems like they are trying to, respectability politics. You have to look a certain way in order to achieve what you're trying to achieve the objective. You know how they say, dress for the part you want.
Yeah.
Right.
But at 18 and 19 college,
right,
the part you want is to go to class.
That's what I was saying. You do that when you at your job, but they're trying to get to the point to where they have a job.
Yeah.
So let them do what they need to do to get to the point to where they like, hey, I need to be professional. Right now, you instill good habits into the kids by saying, all right, when y'all in the yard, when y'all in class, it's whatever. As long as you ain't a distraction. But when you're coming to the seminars, when you're coming to the speakers to hear them speak, when you come into lectures, if you are in your particular program and they have a specific event, like if you're in architecture, if you're in engineering and they have their distinguished lecture series or whatever you call it, yes, absolutely. Professionalism, right? But you ain't got to do it as a matter of,
every day.
Right.
Every day, I don't wear business casual, and I'm a full grown adult.
and they Tuskegee's probably not saying, our kids dress terrible. It's just like the specific do-rags.
They're probably over like the Nike Pro shorts or the workout stuff. It's the cutouts in the back, cutouts in the side. They're probably just clutching their pearls. All that. My only caveat is, if you're coming to class in your pajamas, don't be funky. Don't smell. If you're running late or doing whatever, just make sure. It's a difference to me coming to class in pajamas, and it's a difference coming to class in pajamas and you smell. Those two different things. And
I'm reading into it, to Tuskegee's credit, they're saying all degree candidates should dress in a manner appropriate for the dignity and solemnity of the university's commencement exercises.
So I'm wondering if people showing up to graduation.
And if they are, then yes, that's an absolute no. You're going to graduate, wear your cap and gown, wear something nice under the cap and gown, save all the other stuff for the pictures after you get your degree. And maybe that's the issue. Maybe these kids was coming, they had the cap and gown on the outside, but you take it off, they got, dental floss on. It's like,
sneakers,
hold up.
fuzzy slippers, flip-flops, and Crocs are not allowed.
Yeah.
Heeled shoes over 4 inches in height are prohibited. And that, I get, because I've
Right.
seen a lot of commencement exercises this past year. People wearing these high heels for the first time. They're falling. They can't walk. They're doing like the giraffe walk. That makes sense for that. But I'm wondering, because they specifically call out in this article we're reading from Essence that basically kind of breaks it down. Is they have a whole call out for the commencement exercises. So I'm assuming people were showing up to graduation, to convocation, to certain business events in the stuff that they would wear to class.
Right. Or they buried that, they buried the lead a little bit and said, oh, commencement, respectable, right? But then like somewhere deep down in the policy in which we got to go, I'll probably go take a look at a little bit later. They say revealing clothing will also be banned in classrooms, dining areas, and official university events such as convocation, right? Tuskegee University students wearing bedroom slippers, bonnets, and do-rags in classrooms and the cafeteria. So, they are, I don't know if they are burying the lead, saying the bonnets and the do-rags and revealing clothing. We don't like that. So we're going to mention that. But we're going to focus on commencement, and they got us thinking that kids are wearing bonnets, do-rags, revealing clothing to the commencement, right? But when actuality,
right to class,
right? When actuality, what Tuskegee really wants to say is, don't wear the revealing clothing, don't wear the do-rags and bonnets and pajama slippers, period. But this is really because convocation and commencement, but really we put some clothes on, kids, which has always been. That's always been the argument. When the kids was in the 50s and they just started wearing bathing suits, the adults was like, put some clothes on. When they got to the 70s and they was wearing the disco outfits and the fellas had their stomachs out and start the boy shorts, them shirts at the chest, and the girls started wearing the boy shorts and said, put some clothes on. In the 80s and the 90s, Daisy Dukes, put some clothes on. Now we in the 2000s, and now they got the little bottom of the booty cheek out. Put some clothes on, but it's the same argument. So I don't know why. Yeah. I don't understand why the generation that is wagging the finger,
that lived through the same type of thing,
believes that when they was a kid, we didn't. Now. Right, when we was kids, we didn't. You did exactly what the kids are doing now. So shut your face. Let the kids live.
I really think the athleisure probably was kicking their butt last year. The girls are probably coming in with the boy shorts that they work out in,
with the line up the butt that pulled. You see
the drawstring, like and then like the cutouts, the
look. I get it.
The tops that look like bras but are actually shirts. All that. I get it.
If I was a teacher on the campus, I would probably suck my teeth too. But that's it. I would just suck my teeth, right? Yeah. Because look. You at college now, you're away from your family. You've probably been not locked up, but you've probably been on limited restriction freedom from your family, from your parents. Now you got a little bit of freedom. That's what kids do, yo. Let them breathe.
Yeah.
By the time they become juniors and seniors and super seniors and graduate students, they'll get it. And let them young kids rock, man, as long as they ain't disrupting stuff. Now, you become a disruption, now we got to talk about it.
Yeah. And if you funky, we got to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's interesting how this will play out if other universities kind of follow suit, or if Tuskegee is just going to have to take the hit on this one by themselves.
Kids will complain, but they'll adhere. The school, they can put whatever rules they set forth. This is not doomsday.
Yeah.
What they're doing, the kids will have to adjust and adapt. Now, will that equate to more professional students, or will that equate to kids going to another college, right? Because y'all doing too much, right? Time will tell. Yeah. Time will tell.
Absolutely. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the culture. Let's head on into the hookup for our tech tip of the week.
All right, my hookup for the week is how to get fastest driving directions on Apple and Google Maps. You would assume that Google Maps and Apple Maps, with all their data, would automatically issue you the most fastest route because nobody wants to commute. Nobody wants to sit in their car all day. So when you put in the directions, you are assuming that they are giving you the most efficient, i.e. fastest driving directions. That is not the case. Both Google Maps and Apple Maps have been quietly picking routes that aren't the fastest one, and they never asked us how we felt about it. So I'm gonna go through and show you for Google Maps and Apple Maps how you go into the settings to make sure that when you enter in directions, you're getting the fastest possible directions. Google Maps defaults to the most fuel efficient route, not the fastest. We're talking maybe 1 to 5 extra minutes every single trip because the app decided you care more about your gas mileage than getting home in time for a game. So how do you fix this? You go into the settings, go into navigation, and then you toggle off prefer fuel efficient routes. That will give you the fastest route in Google Maps. Apple Maps is a little bit different. They have a feature called preferred routes. It learns the way you usually drive and keeps giving you those directions, whether or not it's actually the fastest. So it's not being green, it's being nosy, right? They're actually saying, hey, you tend to drive this way every single time. Let me give you directions that way because you're more familiar with it or whatever the case may be. That don't necessarily equate to the fastest route. So how do you change it in Apple Maps? You go to settings, you go to apps, then you go to maps, and then you go to location, and then you turn off preferred routes and predict destinations, right? When you turn that off and then put in the directions, Apple will say default to what's the fastest route. Again, that's up to you if you want to get the fastest route or do you want to go the route you're more familiar with. If you're trying to get there fast and get out of your car, do those settings, right? For both of them, you can check the highway and toll settings as well. Both of them have features to where you can avoid tolls, but in most cases, well, in a lot of cases, the tollway may be the fastest way, right? So you'll have to decide if you want to get there cheap and take a long time, or do you want to get there fast and come out the pocket? So you'll have to decide and toggle which way you want to do for the highway, but both Google Maps and Apple Maps lets you turn on and off avoiding tolls. Again, if you want to get there faster, you turn on tolls. If you want to save some money, you avoid tolls and highway tolls and things of that nature. So if your Maps has been making executive decisions about your whole life without a group vote, if you go in and make these settings, you will definitely get there a little bit faster. So that is my hookup for the week. Perfect.
And with that, it's going to wrap up the show this week. Brother Tech, where can the people find you?
Sure, you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva all over the interwebs as well. You can find our show at Snobble Westcast all over social media as well. Another place you can find out information is by going over to snobblewestcast.com to get information on how to connect, how to share, how to comment, and how to support our show. And with that, we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.